Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Ebony Flowers was born and raised in Maryland. She holds a BA in biological anthropology from the University of Maryland, College Park, and a PhD in curriculum and instruction from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where she wrote her dissertation as a comic, mostly. Ebony is a 2017 Rona Jeff Award recipient. She lives in Denver, Colorado. This is her first collection of short stories. Taneka Stotts is an award-winning comics creator and television writer based in Los Angeles, California. They have won the 2017 Ignatz and 2018 Eisner Award for Best Anthology. A co-founder to Ascend Comics with Dershing Helmer, they continue to focus on comics as a medium for their various stories. Their latest work can be found in Elements, Earth, a comic anthology by creators of color, which is available in the front. Okay, thank you.
I'm Taneka.
I'm Ebony.
And we are, no, I'm just kidding. Wrong show.
Okay, so I'm going to do a quickish, well, I think it's quick. I'm going to read one of my stories from Hot Comb. So if you've never picked up the book, here it is. It's this one here. And it's a collection of about, I think it's 9 stories in there that are loosely based around Black women's hair, and it deals with broader themes of family, place, and belonging wrapped around the vestiges of stuff like racism, misogyny, and classism. I call it feel down stories instead of feel good stories. And I have also included a few of my hair product parody ads. So I don't have much free time now, but there was, because I have an infant son, but before he was born, I had a little bit more downtime, and I decided to create a fake hair product line called Pinnacle, and sometimes I would just kind of lie around and think of hair products for my fake hair product line and then create ads for them. So those are in there too. And so the story I'm going to read for you is about softball. It's a fiction piece, and I used to play softball and as a kid, and I loved playing up until the point when I realized I didn't like balls flying at me anymore, so I stopped playing. But one of the things I loved about softball was the cheerleading part of it, like all the little cheers you made with it. So I wrote this for kind of that nostalgia for that, but then also because in the news there were like recent issues around like Black athletes who couldn't perform, just be athletes because of their hair. So there was some kind of issue dealing with their hair where it impacted how they played. And so, for example, there was this one gymnast who was in the Olympics, and she was this great performer, and the only thing that people cared about was how her hair was, and there was like this big Twitter uproar because people thought that her hair wasn't appropriate for that, and it gave her a lot of anxiety. And there was another one, I think maybe it was like a year or two ago, and it was about this. It was this wrestler, high school wrestler, and he was competing, and apparently he had dreadlocks, and those dreadlocks were against like whatever rules that they had in wrestling. And so he made the decision, along with his coach, to cut them off right there so that he could play. And then just recently it happened. I'm originally from Maryland, and this happened. I think this was in Virginia, where Mike Pence's wife teaches. This little girl, she was like, I guess like 11 or 12, was playing at recess. She had dreadlocks, and she was attacked by a few of her classmates who were yelling racial slurs at her and then cut her hair, cut her dreadlocks off. And so this story, I told you these are feel down stories. So so these kind of events inspired this writing, and then also a friend of mine who was also getting her PhD at the same time I was. She's a Title IX lawyer, and she did research around black female athletes in collegiate sports that are not, they're mostly dominated by white people, so like swimming, softball, gymnastics. And she interviewed them about their experiences in these sports, and one of the things that popped up was this issue around hair and how people received their hair and how it became this kind of bigger theme that they were not anticipating, and how it impacted their performance on the field, and then also their academic performance. And so, okay, so that was long-winded, and now the screensaver's on, so let's get going. Okay, so these are some quick family photos because everyone's curious about other people's lives. Let me see, is this going forward? Skylight books, we're having issues.
Direction?
Is it going?
No. Hit enter.
Enter?
Yeah, try enter and then hit the, there you go.
That's why Taneka's here.
I used to work tech support.
Okay, so how come, I don't think I mentioned this, it's a mix of fiction and creative nonfiction, and so I grew up in Maryland, specifically in and around Baltimore. This is my family, that's me picking my nose, if you're wondering who that person is. And then that's, my brother and my mother and father, and the longest story, also called Hot Comb, references my family. So, and then I also grew up in a trailer park in Maryland, and so I have a soft space in my heart, a little soft place for people who grew up in trailer parks, because the struggle is real. Yeah, so all of my life experiences influences my comics making practice and process and ways of telling stories. And even if the story itself isn't true, there's an emotional truth to it that I use my personal history and that of my friends and family. I draw upon that to create these stories. So this is my grandmother. I also have a younger sister. And yeah, so this is in Baltimore, in a place that no longer exists called Fairfield. And Fairfield was a place that was zoned for mixed industrial use, and industry won over the people and forced all the people to leave. So for people who are unfamiliar with hot combs, there was a time when hot combs are used to straighten black hair, and there was a time when hot combs were not, didn't have electricity, and so you heated it up over the stove, and so a lot of times when you got your hair done, you do it in the kitchen. And so this is my aunts and my grandmother doing hair in the kitchen, which also pops up in my stories. Okay, so my little sister Lena, again, it's based off of, it's a fiction piece that's based off of some of my experiences playing softball. So this is me. I was a terrible softball player, by the way. So these are only good pictures of me. So this is me bringing a batter in, so an RBI. And this is another one of me actually hitting the ball, which is rare. Anyway, so here goes my little sister, Lena. My sister played softball from the age of 4 to her senior year of high school. Softball is a recreation sport few black people play. Lena was usually the only fly in the milk pail, so to speak. Got it. She played shortstop and was a lead batter. The Tennessee Cougars traveled all over the country to play in tournaments. From city to city, Tennessee Cougars show no pity. Tennessee Cougars show no pity. From state to state, from state to state, Tennessee Cougars dominate. Tennessee Cougars dominate. From coast to coast, from coast to coast. Steer right. Tennessee Cougars are the most. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. After a day of playing back-to-back games, the Cougars would rest at their hotel and swim. Hey, guys, let's see who can do the best dive. Yeah. Cannonball! The first time the team swam together, they noticed something curious. Lena's hair. Her hair went from afro to curly when she got it wet. You guys know that was the best cannonball y'all seen. Oh my God, your hair. How did your hair just do that? Lena's white teammates, or everyone else on the team, marveled like she just did some kind of magic trick. My sister Lena had what is known to some black folks as good hair. When Lena was younger, our Auntie Simone used to say, "Poor child got skin dark as my cast iron. Ha, at least she got hair that grows." Lena had long, shiny black coils. Her hair retained instead of lost moisture. What happened to your afro? Yeah. Your hair's so long. It's just wet. When Lena's hair got wet, it went from tight kinks that reached toward the sun to loose curls that draped over her shoulders. Can I touch it? I want to feel too. Okay. Her hair became more recognizable as the kind of hair that grew from her teammates' heads. Haha, I just made a cute little afro. Let me touch. Oh my God, it's so soft. The players floated towards her the way jellyfish sway in search of prey. After the first time the Tennessee Cougars swam together, Lena's hair became their little curio. Why don't you wear your hair out? Huh? Each and every practice, game, tournament, team photo, post-game celebration, and team social, the white girls watched and studied Lena's hair. Your hair is nicer than this black girl's in my math class. You're different from other black girls. Why do you always have your hair braided? Why does your hair always smell like chocolate? Give me a tea. So soft. Huh? And of course, they touched Lena's hair whenever they felt the urge, which was all the time. Lena never said anything, even though she didn't like the attention, especially the hair touching. Nice catch. They weren't mean, but they weren't exactly nice either. Lena's teammates made her feel caged up, and so Lena began a little ritual whenever she was alone. First, she tugged and pulled at a braid until it unraveled. Then she'd inspect an individual strand and wrap it around her finger. She'd tug and tug till the root ripped from her scalp. She'd feel a pinch of pain and then a little wave of relief. She'd do it again and again. And that was Lena's ritual whenever she was alone. She'd do it again and again and again and again and In a few months, Lena noticed a little bald spot. She braided over the spot to cover it up, and then another bald spot appeared, and another, and another, and another, and soon Lena ran out of the ways to cover them up, and people noticed. Oh my God, Lena's going bald. What's up with your hair, Lena? You got AIDS or something? Lena wanted to stop, but she didn't know how. She wanted that relief after each little pinch of pain. How was work, Mom? Tiring. How was soft? What? What the? Your hair's falling out. Bend down. How did you get all these bald spots? I don't know. And so our mother took her to the doctors. I'd like to speak with you in private, Mrs. Russell. Sure. The doctor drew blood, collected a urine sample, and did a skin biopsy. All of the tests came back normal, obviously. I'm almost certain there's nothing physically wrong with Lena. I wrote a referral for her to see another doctor. Here you go. Thanks. A shrink? Yes, I think Lena's doing it to herself. Lena, are you pulling your hair out? No. Dr. Yang said you were. I'm not. It's worth repeating. Lena wanted to stop pulling her hair out, but she still craved that relief after each little pinch of pain. Headed to practice. See ya, Mom. See ya. And though our mother wanted to believe her, she noticed. When Lena came back from practice, Mom said, "You're going to the shrink tomorrow, but no buts." During the first session, she said nothing. The second, she cried. The third session was the same as the second. And then at the fourth session, she said one thing: "I pull my hair out when I'm alone." After that moment, what her therapist, Dr. Patel, called a breakthrough, Lena started to undergo cognitive behavioral therapy and some other treatments. She kept journals about her feelings and recorded each moment she felt the urge to pull. When that wasn't enough, Lena wore mittens and headscarves. When that didn't work, she tried meds, Zoloft, Lexapro, Wellbutrin. Then she couldn't sleep and broke out in hives. So then, Dr. Patel tried talk therapy. "So tell me more about softball." Okay. But Lena never could hold a conversation and ended up crying for most of the time. Lena stopped going to therapy and she stopped playing softball. She doesn't swing a bat or play catch anymore. She still pulls her hair out though. From city to city, Tennessee Cougars show no pity. From state to state, Tennessee Cougars dominate. From coast to coast, Tennessee Cougars are the most. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. That's it.
Thank you so much for that wonderful reading.
You're welcome.
So I just want to go ahead and start this conversation a little naturally. I'm a fan of Hot Comb. I read it, I blurbed it. It was a very fabulous book. I highly recommend it to everyone because it's a piece that I feel very kindred to, being not only a Black girl, but also one who's experienced the same kind of treatments with my hair. What were your feelings that you were going through while writing that story in regards to Lena's anxiety?
So with making comics, typically it takes like forever. When you maybe like listen to other cartoonists, they say things like, it took me 15 years to write this like 80-page book. And some of that's true, but so with Lena, I think it's about a 19-page story. And typically for a 24-page story, it takes me about maybe a month to complete. And this one took me like less than 2 weeks. And I'm trying to remember. So I wrote it after, I believe after my friend's dissertation defense, when I was listening to her talk about like all of these Black women athletes' experiences in collegiate sports. And like I don't know if anger was the right word, but I was just, I was sad and frustrated that like so many Black women have similar experiences that might not, we don't talk about as much like to this kind of detail in a public way. And so I just started creating Lena through that way. And so it was almost like a relief to kind of get it out. And even though this wasn't my experience playing softball, I definitely have had encounters where people questioned my hair, and I feel like questioning one's hair choices is inappropriate all the time, but it was definitely inappropriate situations. Like, I'm about to take a test and you're asking me about my hair and touching it. And now I can't focus on my test. And so I drew upon that to create this story. So when I was going through it, I just felt relief. And I think part of it was my pacing. So I just did a quick penciling of it. And so typically I do like there's lots of layering situations. So I use like transparent paper, and then I use like a light board to redraw it, and then I redraw it again, and sometimes I change panels around. And I didn't do it with this. I just drew it straight on the good paper and then inked it right away.
Thank you. We appreciate your DPI. No, it's All right. So speaking of anxieties and like Black mental health, I know that for our community, therapy is not really something we actually go to,
No.
or is something that is available in a lot of our communities. What made you decide to go in the direction you did with seeking therapy, medication, like the thought processes kind of behind that? Did you feel that might help people try to seek that out?
Well, I wasn't thinking along those lines. I was just thinking of some of the broader experiences that I've heard with like my friends and family, and my own personal experience with therapy, and how like, people say to go, and sometimes that kind of backfires and it's like a shit show kind of thing, and then like, but then other times it works and it's great, and I wanted to show some of the, I guess, complexity. I mean, in this story, it's all negative. Like, it just didn't work for her. Like, nothing worked. Mm-hmm. And so, the ending is left open-ended, where it's still like a struggle, a daily struggle for her. And even though it's not maybe as outwardly expressed, like she's not like walking around saying, "Man, those white folks playing softball, they really messed me up," kind of thing. But she still has this kind of residual effect of pulling her hair out. That could probably be treated with therapy, but who knows if she'll go back to it and try it again as an adult. But at this time, it didn't work for her when she was younger. And for me personally, I've had experience. I go to therapy now, and it's working-ish, but definitely, when I was younger and I've tried to go, it was just like, no, this is like, I'm just staring at your shoe choice, and like, it's just like, you're making me angry, like you're eating popcorn kind of thing. And so,
therapists who eat popcorn. All right.
yeah, it's just like a little trigger for me, but,
will not eat popcorn while interviewing.
So that's what I was showing with that is, therapy is great. It doesn't work all the time, but it can work, and sometimes it's not right for certain people in certain moments in their life, but it might work at other times.
I agree with that completely. I know we talked a little bit about how your stories are feel down stories instead of feel good. But your
Some
cover
of them are funny.
But your cover for me is actually super feel good because it has a lot of nostalgic memories for me. Just looking at it, you might not notice it, but would you tell folks what kind of inspired you to make this cover?
Yeah, so this is from a spoof off of the Never-Ending Story. So there's the part where Atreyu, if no one has any, I'm not going to explain the story, but
it's never ending.
Yeah. But there's a scene in the first one, which is the only good one, where Atreyu has to walk in between these two statues, and if you the little crazy haired scientist says, you have to have confidence, and if you don't, they sniff you out and then they zap you and everything. So Atreyu's walking through and he's like, be confident, and he makes it through. And I love that scene. I hated the Never-Ending Story because the only black person in it was this like old like guy with like this fin thing off of his head and this like long kind of thin mustache. And I don't know, there were so many interesting characters, and the black guy was just kind of like kind of thing. So I decided to make my own version of it, but with hot combs, because I feel like with black women there's like a confidence thing to be able to have your hair done in any kind of way, and in knowing that our hair is more than just like our personal opinions or feelings about how we want to have it done, that it's always unfortunately political because it's wrapped around the historical legacy and current presence of white supremacy in this country. And so we can never just have our hair just be. And when you do have to have confidence. Yeah, you have to have confidence about it when you rock a certain style, or no style. Yeah, and just kind of live your life. I think it's very difficult, and some of the examples I was talking about before the reading, I think speaks to that.
Agreed. I know personally when you were talking about your fake hair care products that Pinnacle.
I occasionally post
the
them on
peak
Twitter.
of hair. That's kind of important to me just because I grew up in the 80s. We both did.
Yeah.
We're same age siblings, but not related. It's just something that we experience different than current generations as far as hair care and beauty that's available now. When we would go to beauty stores, they were not really beauty stores, and our products were sometimes really far in the back. And then sometimes there were black beauty shops that were available in our areas. I had quite a few experiences there because I would have to get something known as relaxers from these places. Did you have any personal experiences getting your hair relaxed?
Yeah, so another thing, I before I talk about my hair relaxing days, which, I do sometimes miss, honestly. Like, sometimes I'm just like, damn, I wish I really could just get a relaxer.
I just love that smell. Oh, yeah. Mm.
I mean, natural hair is great and all, but, like, really, when your hair is, like, a certain length, it takes just as long, if not longer, than dealing with relaxed hair. But anyway, with my hair product ads, So I collect old Jet and Ebony magazines and Essence magazines. I prefer Essence and Jet over Ebony, but anyway, I collect them all, and I like the old, like really old ones too. And I kind of flip through them. One, to look at the ads, because there's a lot of hair ads on there, and what I noticed, and I've been doing this for like maybe 5 or 6 years. It's what grad school does to you too. Like, let me just start collecting these old magazines. And what I noticed is that a lot of the hair ads, the first thing is that they're so inventive and creative, where there are a lot of like spoofs off of movies. Like Star Wars was like big back then, but you know, there weren't really any black people in the Star Wars movies. And so what some of these
Except
hair ads
James
would
Earl
do,
Jones.
Yeah, but you never saw him, right?
But you never
know.
saw him. He was just Vader.
Yeah, exactly. And so Darth Vader could be a white dude, or imagined as a white person. And so what these hair ads did was put black people in spaces where we are typically left out. And so I love that like creative part of it, because you know, sometimes it would just be really funny. So like there was this one ad that I just loved, where it was it's these two black people landing on the moon dressed up as stormtroopers, and I just redrew that over and over again. But one thing I noticed with the hair ads was that there was a lot of like heteronormativity, and it was all about like trying to get a man, and I just wanted our like black women's hair to be more than just trying to get a man and trying to get married. And so I started redrawing these hair ads to center and put a focus on black womanhood and friendship and those kind of loving relationships, so that our hair wasn't about like trying to find fulfillment through someone else. And then it took another turn. But that was the main thing. And so my relaxer experience, so I go back and forth with it. I was just talking to my hairstylist, because she just relaxed her hair after having it natural for a long time. So I detail my first perm experience in hot comb, and it was awful. Like, if anyone, so I was called tender-headed, which I also think is because I was light-skinned. People call me tender-headed too, to make fun of me. But there was some truth to that. So I had like sores on my head, like with my first relaxer, because it was left in too long. But that did not stop me from with the relaxer experience. And so I relaxed my hair all the way up until 38 now. It's probably like 30 the last time I got a relaxer, and then I just stopped. And part of it was like money. Like money stops with a lot of things. I stopped getting like box braids. I stopped doing like a lot of things that cost money, because I was in grad school, and so that was one of the things that stopped. And it's been good. Like, you know, I like my hair however it is. I also love styles that require a relaxer too. So I'm not like with hot comb, a couple of people have noticed or have assumed that I'm like pro natural hair, and I love natural hair, but I also love weaves. I love wigs, and I love texturizers and perms. I just think that black women should be able to. My Afrofuturism is a day when black women can wear their hair however they want, and that's it. It's not talked about. So, yeah. But my relaxer experience has been, you know, like I feel like a lot of black women, like it's been up and down. Yeah. There's horror stories and trauma, and then there's also like, oh, I look cute today, kind of thing.
I mean, that's kind of the whole point with hair. It's an expression of ourselves, and within that, it's an extension of ourselves and our own personalities. We should be able to have fun with that. Up until Tuesday, I had dyed hair that was like kind of up to here, and I grew out my afro quite a bit, to the point where my passport is nothing but hair and my face. And the guy at the Walmart who had to like crop out my hair for the picture was like, "I'm just giving up." here is a box and your picture. Go take it to get your passport. And I was like, yeah. I wanted to make you suffer. But those are like the fun parts about what we can do with our hair, because our hair is like another part of us fighting back in a system that has largely ignored us until lately, where they're like, oh yeah, black people exist. Let's go ahead and add these products to your Target or your Safeway or your John's so that you can start spending more money with us. And I feel like that's been really prevalent lately.
Yeah, but it's also good that we have more choices as well. And I think, I mean, there's always, I hesitate with the word movement, because I know natural hair has become a movement. It's been a movement for a while. But what I do appreciate is that there are not now laws coming into play that kind of help better protect black women with the choices that they want to make regarding their hair, and not feeling like their hair choices will impact whether or not they can still have a job on Monday. And so there's legislation. I think it was just passed maybe a year ago in New York, and there's some stuff going on. I live in Denver now, and there's some legislation getting written up for black women and hair in the workplace too.
I've personally experienced that. Back when I was 18, my mom was like, if you don't straighten your hair, you won't get a job. So I straightened my hair, and I got a job. And then I stopped straightening my hair, and I still had a job. And I kind of used that as a way to fight back against what my mom had said at the time, that it didn't really matter. Have you ever had any experiences where you've definitely done that?
Yeah. So I taught biology in the States, and then also in Angola, which is a country in southern Africa. If you know South Africa, and then there's like Namibia, and then Angola is right there. So I did not go there to teach. I went there to hang out with a friend of mine, and I love the place so much, I decided to stay.
You stayed and
so I
teached.
do have impulsive issues. Anyway, so I started teaching there, and to get to apply to jobs, you have to have a picture of yourself on your resume to send out to
on
people.
Your CV.
And so I was like, all right, let me straighten my hair for this, because I knew that would be an issue. So I straightened my hair, and I got a job at an international school just off of my resume, my phone interview. And when the principal saw me on the first day in person, I still had a texturizer in, but I didn't have my hair straightened. The first comment he made was about my hair. It was just like, oh, you're different now. Your hair's different now. And when he said that, and the way he said that, and how he looked at me when he said that, I knew that if I went in there with, it wasn't even my natural hair. It was like a texturized version of my natural hair. I would not have gotten the job.
Wow.
I looked too resistant.
And that's a natural issue that we've had to face.
Yeah.
And you know that look on their face. It's kind of like this, like, squinty-eyed for a moment, and then it's a wide-eyed, and then it goes to like, oh.
Yeah, you look like all the other common folk. Folk here. Yeah.
That unfortunately has been something that I've experienced even just traveling around. I went to Japan for a while, and went to a favorite place that I wanted to go to buy some manga, and I had braids in my hair at the time.
Oh dear.
Sitting in a chair for 14 hours, not something I recommend to anyone. But everybody wanted to touch my hair. They wanted to know how I got it so long, or why it existed the way that it did, and how I did the braids as small as they were. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's another story that reminded me that's in my book, and it's about Toronto. It's not really a story, it's more of like some shit that happened kind of thing. And so Toronto for me has always been like the promised land for cartoonists and making comics. This is my idea before I actually went there. And like it was like a rainbow of people.
Are you
right, all
dissing
making
Toronto?
comics. I love Toronto. And
They
so
have great kimchi fries, okay?
they do.
They really do.
They do, because there's Koreatown.
Yeah, they have a great Koreatown.
And so I went there. So I had the opportunity to go there because I was teaching at the University of Toronto. And so my experience with the whole cartooning and comics thing was true. And I think a lot of that has to do with the universal health care that they have. But the whole Rainbow Coalition utopia idea I had in my head just kind of
Fizzled out.
It fizzled and faded away because I was wrapping my hair a lot, and I still do, but there especially I was wrapping my hair a lot, and I noticed that whenever I wrapped my hair, white people would be very short with me or just treat me in a way that I felt like it was because my hair was wrapped, and this. An incident I detailed in my book kind of reinforced that idea, where someone came up to me when I was in the subway and asked me all these questions about why my hair was wrapped, and like trying to figure out what country I was from, and then she looked disappointed and also confused when I was just like, I'm American, I'm from the U.S., I'm from Baltimore, there's nothing special about me, descendants of slaves kind of person, and I realized, I don't know how prevalent it is in Canada or Ontario or in that part of the area, but there is a tension between people, non-Muslims and Muslims there. And I think, and it's just different than it is in the U.S., but I definitely picked up on that vibe whenever my hair was wrapped. But whenever it wasn't wrapped, I never had any kind of, I didn't feel like I was being looked at in a suspicious way or being treated differently.
And obviously their ignorance of not understanding your silk wrap, which is highly decorated or usually one color, versus the normal wear of what one who would be within Muslim culture to wear. Yeah,
but it's just like, even if I don't know, it's just like, it was the first time I experienced that, and I was surprised to experience it there, and then to look in comparison to my experiences in the U.S. where I can have my hair wrapped and no one will pay me any mind. And
on the bus,
and this is in Denver, which is one of the whitest places I ever lived in my entire life.
I lived in Portland, Oregon. I know.
And I don't get the same. I don't get the same looks I got when I was in Toronto.
Okay. Have you ever tried to experience any black hair care stores outside of Denver or outside of Baltimore in any other area where you might have needed something quickly for your hair while you were traveling, or any of those types of experiences?
Yeah, so traveling. So I traveled a lot in before there was social media, so I never talked about it. But I traveled all throughout sub-Saharan Africa and East Africa and parts of East Africa, and then Southeast Asia, like India and Sri Lanka and Nepal. And I was gone, like sometimes I would be gone for like months at a time in a country. I don't know. It's just, hair wraps are good.
They save a nap.
Yeah. And, you know, now I keep my hair short on purpose because I feel like with short hair you can kind of stick anything in it and not feel too guilty or like off-putting by it. But there are definitely, like, I was gone for like 3 years and I went home like once, and I definitely stocked up on stuff whenever I went home. But then I also found interesting products. So, like, there's really some nice hair oils in Southeast Asia I came across that I collected. And when I was in Brazil, I took up a bunch of stuff. But I don't put like natural hair products in my head, so I'll use all the silicones and all the paraffins and all the crap you're not supposed to put in your hair. I do that because whatever, it's just hair.
I mean, as we just cut ours all off, I mean, it really is just hair.
Yeah.
I guess my other experience, which I recently just had. I was out in Maui and I biffed it into the sand, and I had sand all throughout my hair, and my hair being longer really held in a lot of the sand. And I was forced to come to terms with, if I wanted to get this out of my hair, I Googled for the first time what to do if you get sand in natural hair. I've never done this in my entire life. This was just something that happened to me last week. And I came upon a forum post, which was by white mothers who adopted black children. And it was the most depressing thing I've ever read, because she was like, take a vacuum cleaner to it. And I was just in
That's a comic right there.
shock and in tears and in just like rage. And these other mothers were like, I just did it to my child from Zimbabwe, and it was great. And I was just realizing that this, when I was trying to Google for black forums about this, none of them came up in the top search results at all. It was all buried within the third pages. Everything else was for just adoptive mothers who couldn't figure out their black adopted child's hair. And that kind of became something that I became fixated on before coming to see you, because I'd never experienced that. And then I went and I got my hair all chopped off, and it feels great. I love looking like a boy, so it doesn't matter. But like that kind of situation, have you ever Googled something and kind of like ran into like how our hair care is supposed to be treated, and it's absolutely not?
No, I just ask other people. I avoid that. Like, Google is a horrible. Like, it's wonderful, but it's also very like horrible. I just go to. I ask a friend or go to my stylist.
Yeah.
You know, there's a minute when I used to swim a lot.
Okay.
And you know, with chlorine and relaxed hair, because I used to swim and then straighten my hair afterwards, right? And
someone's brave.
Yeah, and so, you know, I was just talking, there was like four black women who was swimming, and we all had different kind of like ways of growing our hair. So one person had braids, another one had dreads, and I think another person had their hair relaxed too. And so we would just kind of swap like products and talk about what worked and didn't work.
So you had like a small group,
very
or
small,
community.
because there's not a lot of us swimming in pools. At least, you know, places I've been swimming.
Denver.
I know them all.
I believe that kind of plays upon, you know, just like how important it is to also have even the smallest of networks or communities, be it family or be it friends that you can kind of relate to and share those products. I lived in a place where I was completely isolated from everyone, and there was not another black person for miles, unfortunately, because I was so obscurely placed at that point in time. So I think it's really important to be able to say that, yes, these systems need to be there for one another, even if we are outside and it's kind of a desert in a way on like Google, for instance, if you have to use that as your last resort.
Yeah, and when I was swimming, I lived in places where there were like lots of black people, so like the DMV, where you don't have to think about being black as much.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing when you don't have to think about that.
It really is. Since I came back to LA, I'm very happy with my hair and the situation of what I get to actually deal with. And I have my queer salon that I go to. It's something I never thought I would be able to look up, is just queer salon to feel really comfortable. And Project Q was something that came up for me, and it's led by a non-binary black barber by the name of Madden Lopez. You get your hair done there, but it's a comforting experience being able to have your hair done in a way, because I've gone to salons in the past where I've had my hair relaxed or I've had it blown out and then it's really long and it's to my shoulders. They would not cut my hair because they said it would no longer make me look feminine.
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
Yeah. So have you ever had any issues with not your current stylist, but stylists in the past who might have wanted to corral or take hold of your hair in their vision?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Okay, so there's this, and I was sad to have to break ties with him. So I had a stylist back home, his name is Eben, and I thought that was great because my name's Ebony. It was like Eben and Ebony, and I was like, this is gonna work.
Evan and Ebony.
And he did such. I mean, I loved all the cuts he gave me and everything. But then when I got pregnant, and I was really nauseous all the time, and so I didn't feel like doing anything. Like taking a shower felt like exercise to me, and so I wanted to have my hair cut off. And he was like, well, I don't think you should do that, because what if you get all fat and bloated when you're pregnant, and then you're not going to look right? And I could see where he's coming from, but then again, I was just like, just cut
Who
my
are
hair.
you,
I'm
though?
like,
Who are
like,
you?
Evan, come on.
You're not pregnant. You didn't knock me up. You really can't make those
Yeah, and he was-
determinations or comments.
Yeah, and I didn't entirely break up with him because of that, but it was like I had moved out to Denver, and so I was waiting. Whenever I visited family back home, that's when I get my hair cut. And so when I because I was waiting so long to get my hair cut, there were only certain styles I could do where it wouldn't look ragged. Mm-hmm. And so after he said that to me, it kind of pushed me a little to find a stylist back in Denver, which I found. But yeah, so he said that to me about being pregnant. So I don't know. I think he had an issue with
Pregnant women
bloated women,
getting
fat
their
women.
hair
I don't know.
done.
I think he had
Like,
issues with fat women.
I'm sorry. Does my belly have something to do with my head?
Yeah.
All signs point to no.
Yeah, but he did cut it short for me, but we did go back and forth, and I had to like, calm him down.
Yeah.
And say, I'm okay with looking bloated and having short hair. I'm good with that.
I'm sorry you even had to have that experience.
Yeah, because I didn't want anyone else to cut my hair, and I was in a situation where I was like, all right, let me calm you down, Evan. I know what I'm doing. Cut my hair, please. Yeah.
I've had a silly, or I should say desperate time where I needed to get my hair cut once, and I had to go to a Supercuts.
Oh, God, no.
Because it was
hair
the
wraps, wigs.
only thing in the area whatsoever. And the man who did my hair was like, this is like my grandfather's best friend's hair. And I was like, what the? Okay, well, I'm going to sit in this chair and you're going to try to do something. And he proceeded to horribly, I am not, by the way, tender-headed. I know what it means, and I know what it means in a derogatory way when you're sitting in a chair to be called tender-headed, but I'm not whatsoever. I grew up with 7 brothers who are all older than me. The gap between me and my youngest is 9 years, and they would pick me up by my hair as a child. So my hair is really strong, but
Good for you.
just brag. But that doesn't mean that I still don't feel pain or whatnot when the clippers go too deep, or when relaxers are left in for too long, or braids are getting too tight and you begin to get headaches. There's no way around that. That's part of the process of having your hair done. So for me, I went to the Supercuts, and he decided to give me an afro, which is not what I asked for. I asked for a shortcut. So he proceeded to pick out my hair and then sculpt it. And then by the time I was done, I looked like the cover of Jet magazine in 1987. And I was kind of digging it, though, because it was something I wasn't expecting to come out with. Have you ever gone in and come out with something you weren't expecting?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I stick with stylists I know, and they're either my friends or like Eben. So, so
Evan's not a friend, by the way. I'm ixnaying Evan for you.
Yeah, it's hard though. He can cut hair, and he can do everything, weaves. Anyways, but no, because I've been fortunate enough where I know that I have people in my family or friends who are willing to do my hair and do it for free, which is always good. So I've never had a Supercuts situation. I would wrap my hair for months before I go to Supercuts.
Listen, I
because
was
know,
desperate and I
yeah.
had to get on an airplane. Anyway, it
Bless
worked
you.
out in my favor.
Bless you for doing that. I wouldn't.
Hair experiments. We can talk about that next time.
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap into back to the book and the stories involved, was there anything personally for you when you were working on it you might have felt unsure of adding to the book?
No, so the book, so I wrote the, so I know that like most people who write books sit down with the intention of writing a book, and so I don't feel bad anymore, but I didn't really sit down with the intention of making a book. I was writing a dissertation at the same time that I was doing a lot of these stories, and so it was more of a stress reliever for me because I had the whole dissertation experience was pretty stressful and traumatizing, and that's not for this time. And so I was pretty unhappy, and so my way of like coping with that was making comics that felt a little bit more personal and felt like they were more mine to share with a small group of people. And so after I finished my dissertation, what I didn't know is that my old boss, who was also a cartoonist, was sharing my work with her publisher, and it was like a random email I got from Peggy at Drawn and Quarterly, and saying, "Oh, so-and-so's been showing me your work." And I was like horrified because, I was showing it to like, 5 people or so. And I was horrified, but then I was okay with it because she was like, "Oh, I love it, and I'm really interested in publishing your work. Do you have more to show?" And then I said, I can't do anything right now because I'm working on my dissertation, and that's sucking my life force out of me. So it's just like, I'll email you, in a year or so. And then after I finished my dissertation, I got the Rana Jaffe Award, which allowed me to. It's an award for young, or not actually young. It's for women writers who are early in their career. So not necessarily young, because I'm almost 40, but and it's just money that you can use to however you want to finish whatever it is that you're working on. And so for me, when people give me a lump sum like that, which never happens, I'm going to use it for what I said I was going to do. So I said, let me finish this book, or let me finish these stories. And I actually had 2 books going at the time, or 2 things that could be stories. So this one, which is the collection of short stories about hair, and it only came through because I realized, I have all these stories about hair. It wasn't an intention. It was just like, wow, I've written a lot of stories that kind of revolve around this theme. And so it was like, that could be a book. And then I have this other one I'm working on now as my second book, which is about loosely, it's a fiction piece that's loosely about where my grandmother grew up. The picture I showed you, where she lived in a place in Baltimore that was zoned for mixed industrial use. And so when I talked to Peggy at Drawn and Quarterly a year out and showed her my 2 projects that could potentially become a book, she said it's better to go with short stories first as your first book before you do a longer one. So that's the only reason why it came out that way. And then Drawn and Quarterly has wonderful editors there to take out stories and say you need to add in stories and to organize the stories in a certain way if like that's something that you want to, the creative control you want to give up, which I was writing my dissertation. I was like, yeah, sure, I don't care what you guys, how you guys organize it. So they kind of curated my stories in that order and in that way. So, and they did the coloring for my cover. I didn't color it.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, it means it's the right CMYK. Anyway, no.
Yeah, it was definitely not I don't know if there's a scripted way of getting published, but the way I think about it in comics is that you self-publish for a while, you do a lot of comic shows, and there's a lot of publishers walking around, and then they see your work, and if they're interested in it, and representing you or seeing what else you could do, then you have that conversation and you go from there. But that can take years, and that might never happen, and you could be in a situation where you're always self-publishing, and luckily there's like stuff like Kickstarter where you can make a ton of cash, more cash than I make off of my books, withdrawn and quarterly, but where you can make a lot of cash off of Kickstarter to help jumpstart your books, sharing your books in that way. So
I want to ask, and I feel like this is kind of like just something personal for me as well. What made you stumble into comics as a medium in the first place? When you're writing and you're doing a dissertation, most people just think of, standard prose form or a lot of text. What gave you, I guess, that sort of idea, not only to come into comics, but to use it as your medium of speaking?
So I went to grad school after traveling a bunch, and I learned so much from not just traveling, but just living my life. So I used to make prosthetics. I used to teach high school biology, environmental science. When I was traveling, I learned to speak Portuguese. And then I get to grad school, and it was just like just sad. I don't want to say it was like an awful experience, because I've had some very positive experiences with grad school, but there was a lot of, it wasn't the best environment for me for learning. And I wanted, and especially when I was learning qualitative research methods, it was pretty like square. It was like, you can do interviews, you can do field work, and then you write it up in this way, and there's a lit review, whatever. And so I started looking for courses that would teach me more creative ways of representing my research and ways of thinking about how to do my analysis. And that's when I came across comics and started working with that. I had no drawing experience before that. I was definitely not the artist. You know how in your like elementary school there's like, oh, so-and-so can draw real good. That was never me.
I was never that kid either.
But comics have I don't know if everyone would agree with me who's in the industry, but I think comics are different and unique in that it's a space between writing and drawing, like Rembrandt representational drawing, and it's kind of like this middle path where you don't have to be a Rembrandt, and you don't have to be like a Toni Morrison to create stories, interesting stories. And so I felt like once I was exposed to comics, because I definitely didn't read them as a child. I thought I didn't think anything of it, but I thought it was like stuff white people did, so I never really thought about them. But when I was really exposed to it and got into it, I saw it as a way to better express myself than through just straight writing. I wasn't drawing at all, but it just kind of freed me up creatively.
That's wonderful. For your sequel book that you had slightly mentioned, will you be staying in the comics medium as well for?
Yeah, I'm only making comics now. I don't think I can do, except for my academic. I'm saying that now, I'm like, wait. No, except for my academic stuff, there's a couple of, I do comics there, but I also just write the way academics write too. So.
Yeah. Very astutely.
So I still write with words with my academic pieces.
I use my words.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Well, that was really wonderful. Are there any things that you would like people to understand, mostly from Hot Comb or through the comics medium, as far as like a message that goes a little bit further that maybe people haven't picked up on from the book?
Just that it's funny, I was just at the Image Awards yesterday for the dinner, and people were saying interesting things that kind of revolved around that. And all I was thinking was just, I think for people who are like interested in writing or are writers or cartoonists or poets or whatever, I'm a closeted poet, by the way. The closeted
Come
means that
out of the closet. Hello,
closeted
I'm a
means
poet.
that I write poetry and I have no training in it whatsoever.
Neither
so
did I. It didn't stop me from slamming across
Yeah,
City.
everything's free form.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it rhymes. and I know
E.E.
that's-
Cummings became famous. That's all I have to say.
I would just say that just get the story out. And by that, I don't mean like sharing it with people, because definitely I was not trying to share my stories with people. But if you have this urge to, like, a story that's like bothering you, it's just better if you just get it out and not think too much about next steps or even the act of it doing it itself. Just and if you're short on time, just spend like 10 minutes, 20 minutes here or there getting it out, because that's what I'm doing now. And if the story is honest, like emotionally honest and true, it will resonate with people. At least that's been my experience, that my stories have been resonating with people I haven't expected it to resonate with. If there was an audience for my stories, it would be for Black women, but definitely other people have come up to me to say wonderful things about my stories, and I've just been humbled and really inspired by that. And so that would be the one takeaway. It's just, it doesn't matter who you are or like what your actual job is or position is in this world. If you have stories that you want to get out, just get them out and people will come to you. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to wrap up our conversation. It felt very heartfelt and lovely. Do you have anything else you want to say as far as like how to reach and find more of your work?
Oh, well, thank you for everyone for listening. No one fell asleep. I always look for someone to fall. Like, there's always, like, one person, at least, but no one fell asleep here, so thank you. And thank you, Taneka, for coming out.
I would have yelled at them.
No, because it's better.
People need sleep.
I used to teach.
Sleep at home,
I used
not
to
at the
teach
bookstore.
high schoolers. At least they're here. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, if you want to follow me, there's, like, Twitter. You can tell how I feel about social media, but sometimes I do these like quick drawings of myself in the morning as different things, like Batman or a fish, and so sometimes you'll see that if you're interested. And then there's my website, and I try to keep it updated. I keep it updated. I keep that shit updated, so yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
All right. Can I get a hand for Dr. Ebony Flowers? I just want to appreciate.
Thank you.
Look, more people came.
Yeah. I think they're buying stuff.
Yeah, well, but they stayed for the conversation regardless,
Yeah.
and that was kind of the whole point of this. I'd like to say thank you to Skylight Book. Oh, do you have a question? Oh, we have a question. I'm not rapping. All right, we're doing this. Amanda, as if I do not know you.
We all do, yeah.
My grandmother is a professional hairstylist, and she's 97 years old. And so I grew up literally in a hair salon in her basement, which I have fond memories of as like the beautiful space for Black women to like get together. And I've always seen hairdressers as healers, because I've seen that with my grandmother and even my mother. Whenever she was in a bad mood, I've always wished she had a hair appointment coming up. She would come back a different person, and transformed every time, just emotionally.
It's like church.
Yeah.
For real. And actually, I go to Project
I go to choral usually. Yes. Madden jacked me up because she was the only one. They were the only one available. Anyway.
Well, sometimes black barbershops can be a mess, you know. Anyway, that's a whole issue. But my question was the title always what it is now, and like, or is that something that was a gradual process? And did you say that you taught yourself to draw a few years ago? Did you say that?
Yeah, so I started drawing when I was 31.
That's incredible.
Like, consistently drawing, not like being forced to draw for a class assignment in like 6th grade kind of thing. Yeah. Wait, what was your question again?
Title.
Okay. So the title, so this is gonna, well, whatever. Okay, so
Tell it.
so with the whole publishing, my publishing experience, Drawn and Quarterly wanted some examples or some like options, because they had their own idea for the title, and I think it was like Burn Baby Burn, and I was just like, no. Like, so,
That was made by white people.
yeah, I just like, it's not gonna, okay, let me, and so I gave him like, I think like 5 options. I think one of them was, it might have been Tender-Headed, but then I realized that a book had already been called Tender-Headed, and then I think another one.
Not about black hair care.
No, it was. It
was?
was about a black woman's experience with it. And I was like, damn, she got that one. I'm trying to think of the other ones, but Tender-Headed was one. I think maybe like Black Salon or something along those lines was one, and then Hot Comb was one of those. I just wanted something short, because my husband Rami was like, oh, you need to keep the title short for social media. See, this is the thing with social media. But, and I'm in, coming from academia where titles are super long and like explains everything that's going to be in the article before you actually read it. And so, yeah, so out of those choices, they said Hot Comb. They liked Hot Comb, which, yeah. So it's not as interesting, I guess, I think. Didn't come to me as an epiphany or anything. It was just like a visceral reaction to their Burn Baby Burn.
I was
Let me
about
give
to
you
say,
some options.
anything was better than Burn Baby Burn.
Yeah.
That is kind of the most terrible title pitch I've heard for quite a while.
I think they got it from one of my panels where I had, it said Burn Baby Burn, and I guess they thought that it just stuck with them for whatever reason, yeah.
Any other questions? Hey, look at this. Can we go from the front and then we'll head to the back?
So you wrote these about 7 years ago then? Or?
I started, so on and off. So like, what's your question?
The question is, has anything improved in terms of how people, kids, are treated since you started writing these stories?
In
General society.
In reference, I suppose, also to the news pieces that we both are familiar with.
Yeah, I would.
Which are recent.
Yes, they are. They are very recent.
So I don't have a great answer for that. I mean, things have improved in the sense that like I can make this book called Hot Comb, and lots of different people can read it, and they're not immediately offended and thinking I'm trying to push a narrative that they perhaps disagree with, and I feel like a lot of people are more open and willing to read stories like mine that are left ambiguous and open-ended, where there isn't a happy ending. So in that sense, I guess it's improved, but to the day-to-day reality of it, I don't know, probably not. Like, I don't go out much because I'm either making comics or like, dealing with a baby. But the times I do go out, it's not out of the ordinary if someone makes a comment about my hair or just says something about my hair, which leads me to think that if I was out more, this would be a situation where, or if I had an office job, it would be like a situation because my hair is all cut off now, but I like to change up my hair quite a bit. And so that's an issue too. Like when you're a Black person who changes their hair quite often. I don't know. So I would say you'd have to talk to the person. I think it's a case-by-case basis. Yeah.
Unfortunately, our news currently sadly reflects the same sentiment and feelings where it has not changed. In fact, that's why we need something called legislation to actually assist with these matters, which is really ridiculous when it's just our hair naturally.
I'm so glad that they exist.
Yes, yes, because unfortunately we live in a timeline where they have to. Mm-hmm. We'll go ahead and take the question in the back. Oh.
That's a great question. So pre-baby, I would say because I had like long stretches of time to work on my drawings and work on my comics. And so I could sit there and kind of like play around a little bit more. And so sometimes I would, I start off writing first and then start drawing, or I start off drawing first and then write. But now, since I have like increment little bits of time, I have this around me a lot and like a little notepad, and so if like dialogue pops up in my head, I'll write it down really quick because I don't know the next time I'll be able to like sit down and do it, and if I remember. And so now I go through like kind of phases where there's like a penciling phase, which is kind of like the hardest and most labor intensive because I'm creating new story. And so I try to find stretches of time for that, and I have like odd hours I work for that. And with those moments, I typically do I work on index cards, and I quickly like do a mix of like very quick sketches and narrative in storytelling storylines that I can do in like less than 5 minutes, and then I'll have like and each index card will represents a page, and so I'll have like maybe over the course of the day like 5 or 6 of those that I can work off of, and then work slower at one, and then sometimes as I work slower on the and add on more detail and work on bigger, still not great paper, but work on bigger paper and to scale, the story changes slightly. But so it's still a mix of writing and drawing. It's just how I do it has changed because of my life circumstances. I make it sound like, anyway, having a baby is like having an illness, but
don't have babies. No.
You can, but it just changes things up. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
So I didn't read any graphic memoirs specifically while I was making these stories, because I was doing my dissertation, and then just didn't care to look at those. But just in general, Calling Dr. Laura is good by Nicole. Last name is Georges, and let me see. She's one, and then Whit Taylor is interesting. She does, I don't know if I know she self-publishes. I don't know if she's with anyone.
She's not.
She's not? Okay. So that's sad. But she has a website where you can get her stuff.
Whit Taylor Comics with an X.
Yeah. So look at that. And then let's see. There's John Porcellino does a lot of stuff. It's he's a certain kind of flavor, but I like his drawing style a lot, and his pacing. And then, do you have any people? You know a lot of memoir people.
I do.
Well, say some while I'm thinking of more.
Well, I mean, for me, I haven't actually been reading anything right now because I work in television. Sorry.
Oh, Creation.
Yay.
I forgot her name. Her name. Okay, so the title of the book is Creation, and it's really good because it's about gentrification in her hometown in Ontario, and also about being a mother. And then also Teresa Wong wrote or just made a comic called Dear Scarlet that's about postpartum depression. That was good for me. I didn't have postpartum depression, but I related to some of the things that she talked or wrote about there. And then also there's a book series called Graphic Medicine that's published by Penn State University, and they publish a lot of work that's about mental health and experiences with illness, lifelong illnesses, and terminal illnesses too.
Okay.
I recommend those.
Anyone else? All right, then I feel this can get wrapped up.
Yeah, and if anyone has a book they'd like me
Yeah.
to sign, I'm around. For
I wanted
a
to make
few
sure you
minutes.
had
Let me
time for
see.
signing, definitely.
Yeah, I have a few minutes. I can draw fast.
All right, thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.